What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Power Play with CJ. Today we're going to focus in on why I think the Nashville Predators will finish higher than the Minnesota Wild in the standings this season. Obviously, Minnesota Lauren, Nashville's second best defenseman Ryan Suter, but Nashville being able to retain the best defenseman in hockey and Shea Weber makes up for that, I'd say. And I remember, not to get too far off track before I start the piece, last year Hockey News had a cover article called Slashville with Rene, Weber, and Suter on the cover, and it said, maybe they'll lose them all. If you told me, when that out came out, they're going to keep Weber and keep Rene, that's fine. Take the third wheel out of those guys. But it's 5 reasons. Number 1, home ice. Nashville has one of the most underrated home ice advantages in the NHL due to the structure of the arena and the fact that fans, maybe they're not as hockey knowledgeable as, the state of hockey, Minnesota. But, they're passionate, they love the team, and they've had a lot to root for since the lockout. They've only missed the playoffs 1 year since the lockout. And I didn't miss by too much despite not being too talented that year. But, I think, and the other thing is with Minnesota, there's so much competition to the Wild. If Minnesota's playing Duluth or, Blaine West is playing Blaine East, like, oh my God, that's the biggest game ever. And that's kind of how the North Stars got lost in the mix back in the 90s is, so much high school and college hockey that comes cheaper and it's a high-level hockey, they kind of, the North Stars go off. I'm not saying it's going to happen with the Wild, but that could happen and hurt, drastically impact attendance, especially if the Wild get off to a slow start, which, when you put a super team together, that's always the drawback, and, people jump off the bandwagon, and you never know. Number 4, the Wonder Kids. Now, Minnesota's got one of the deepest prospect pools in hockey, but out of all their top prospects, Granlund, Phillips, Bulmer, Coyle, Zucker, they've got a combined total of 9 games in the NHL, all by Bulmer. Nashville's guys, Ryan Ellis, is ready to break out. We saw what he can do at the World Juniors in the OHL and in the AHL, for that matter, last year in Milwaukee. I think Colin Wilson, who just signed a 3-year extension, is ready to break out this year and have 50, 60 points for the Preds. Halachuk's been proven to be a big game scorer. Bork was great in the playoffs. Spelling, I think their guys are ready to step up. And I think Minnesota's guys got the higher upside, but I think especially next year, Nashville will rely upon the younger players in the lineup to produce, and I think they'll do just fine. All those kids under 25 will do fine, and really be the guys that keep them in contention and, make Nashville, younger. Give them some young legs and give them looks they wouldn't have got with, 2-2 and, some of the guys that lost in the lineup, Kostitsin. Guys like that. Number 3, defenseman, a.k.a. Shea Weber. Suter's a great player. But he benefited from playing with Weber more than Weber benefited from playing with Suter. Now, that's not to say Shea didn't benefit from playing with Suter. Weber was the number 1 guy in that tandem. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But having said that, I think it's going to be different for Ryan Suter to play with a guy not, even Tom Gilbert, his former fellow Wisconsin Badger. He's no Shea Weber, not at all. And I think it's curious to see what it's going to be like for Suter to be the man on the back end. Where he was always second fiddle to Weber, even in the leadership department on the Predators. He came up as a rookie back in 2006. Kind of got shuffled around, and then grew eventually with other leaders in that locker room. It's going to be him, Parisi, and Koivu, as the 3 leaders in that team. And what's going to happen when one of the younger players misses a defensive assignment, or Tom Gilbert not being as confident out there as Shea Weber? What's going to happen? How's he going to react? I think he'll do all right. But we'll see. This is a test he's never faced before, being the leader on that team. Of course, having Zach Parisi up front does help you out, both in the leadership department and in the scoring department. Number 2, the division. Vancouver's the team that's beaten that division the last 3 years, and then you look at teams like Calgary, they're gonna hang around. Edmonton's got some firepower. Whether or not they do anything with it, we shall see. Colorado's kind of an upstart team. You don't know what you're getting with them. I'm leaving someone out. Colorado, Calgary, Edmonton, Calgary. No, I got all 4 of them. It's a pretty good division, and Nashville plays in a great division too. But you got the Jackets, who the Jackets. Chicago, I think, is going to kind of slip even more in the standings next year. Detroit's going to fall in the standings, and St. Louis is great. So you got 1 bona fide great team in that division, and the other 3, 1 awful team, and then 2 mediocre teams that I think watch for Detroit to be an 8th seed at the best next year. Heard it here first. So I think Nashville can compile wins against divisional opponents a lot more easy than Minnesota can. And number 1, goaltending. It all comes down to goaltending. And, as good of a player as Backstrom is, he's not Pekka Rinne, even though Rinne was not great against Phoenix last year in the second round. I'd take Rene over Backstrom any day, twice on Sundays. He's that good. He's a difference maker. He's a franchise guy. He's a guy that can take you to the next level, steal you a series, win you 5 games in a row and give up 4 goals in the stretch. He's kind of that guy. I don't think Backstrom is. And now, next year's going to be a little bit different with, Ellis, Blum, Yossi, all those guys get significant ice time. But I think he's going to have a better situation than Backstrom, just in terms of pure talent. I think he's a better goalie than Backstrom. He's obviously younger. But, see how it works out. I'm pretty curious to see what the Western Conference looks like next year. But you heard it here first. Nashville will finish ahead of Minnesota in the standings, provided this 82-game season, of course. Either way. But that's all I got. Let me know what you guys have to say. Stay tuned for more episodes of The Power Play with CJ throughout the offseason and beyond. Later, guys.